Good afternoon. It's Thursday, the 20th of April. I'm Yael Shir, and this is IBA News, broadcasting live from Jerusalem. Israel's foreign ministry is calling on Israelis to refrain from visiting North Korea for any purpose. A statement issued by the ministry cited increased tensions in the region as the cause for the warning, saying, quote, "In the light of the fact that the state of Israel has no diplomatic relations with North Korea, and the case is that an Israeli citizen finds himself stuck in any sort of distress while in North Korea, Israeli representatives will be unable to assist." Organized tours for Israelis to North Korea have proven popular in recent months, with travel officials calling it a fascinating destination. Tensions have increased between the United States and North Korea in recent days after the Eastern Asian country attempted an unsuccessful ballistic missile launch, inviting harsh U.S. criticism. The Syrian government has relocated the majority of its Air Force planes to Russian bases inside the country in order to protect them from future potential U.S. strikes. Citing U.S. defense officials, a CNN report said the Syrian regime began transferring the planes shortly after the U.S. airstrike on April 6th in response to the Syrian government's chemical attack in which dozens of Syrian civilians were killed and wounded. The retaliatory American airstrike reportedly damaged some 24 Syrian Air Force planes. In a related development, Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman said he is 100% sure that President Bashar Assad was directly responsible for the chemical attack on civilians in Idlib earlier this month. While Israel refuses to interfere militarily in the Syrian conflict, Lieberman said the chemical attack, as well as the subsequent bombing of a hospital where the victims were being treated, was Assad's direct order. A 60-year-old Israeli civilian suffered light to moderate injuries in a car-ramming terror attack at the Gush Etzion junction yesterday afternoon. Shortly after this, Shin Bet announced it had arrested two sisters entering Israel from Gaza after discovering explosives in their belongings. IBA's Margot Dudkevich reports.
The Israeli man was standing at a bus stop at the Gush Etzion junction when the terrorist rammed his car into the back of a bus, hitting him. Soldiers shot the terrorist, who succumbed to his wounds shortly after. The Israeli civilian was treated by medics at the site and transferred to Shaarei Tzedek Hospital in Jerusalem. Palestinian media reports named the terrorist Suhaib Musa Mashara, a 21-year-old resident of the East Jerusalem village of Al-Sawahira. Security forces searching his vehicle found a knife on one of the seats. Shlomo Neiman, head of the Gush Etzion Regional Council, called on the government to construct more buildings in settlements in Judea and Samaria in response to the attack, saying it will send terrorists a message that there is a price to be paid for their actions. A female Palestinian cancer sufferer and her sister were arrested at the Erez border crossing yesterday after medicine files containing explosive materials used to manufacture bombs were discovered in their belongings. The two, who had received permission to enter Israel in order to undergo medical treatment, were searched at the crossing by security guards before entering Israel. On discovering the explosives, the two were arrested and handed over to the Shin Bet for questioning. A statement released by the Shin Bet security agency said the two sisters revealed they'd received the material from Hamas operatives in Gaza to be used in a terror attack inside Israel in the near future. The Shin Bet said the incident is further proof of the continued efforts of terror organizations in Gaza to take advantage of medical and humanitarian assistance offered by Israel in order to wage terror attacks against the Jewish state. Margot Dudkevich for IBA News.
Commenting on his upcoming trip to Washington next month, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said he believes that U.S. President Donald Trump knows the Palestinians are committed to a two-state solution. In an interview with Japanese newspaper Asahi Shimbun, the Palestinian leader said he is ready to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at any time in Washington under Trump's patronage. When asked what the Palestinian response would be if the U.S. transfers its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, Abbas said the Palestinian leadership has already made it clear that it is a dangerous and destructive move, and if it occurs, they have a plan they will implement. He also called Israel's settlement activity a war crime under international law that has to be stopped. Footage released by Jordan's royal court shows King Abdullah in full military gear, participating in a military exercise together with the kingdom's armed forces earlier this week. The king, a former special operations commander, is concerned the Islamic State will penetrate his country's borders. Jordan, a major U.S. ally, backs the moderate rebel groups fighting in Syria that are supported by the Arab Western Coalition, which is trying to prevent the opposition-held areas of Syria from falling into the hands of ISIS. Police are seeking permission from Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit to question Welfare Minister Chaim Katz under caution in connection with an ongoing police investigation in alleged corruption charges at Israel Aircraft Industries. The police probe is focusing on suspicions of fraud, breach of trust, and corruption, and has already arrested 14 people, including Katz's son, Yair. In a separate probe, the Israeli Securities Authority is investigating suspicions that while serving as government minister, Chaim Katz in 2015 purchased shares in a real estate company before it merged with Airport City and allegedly received over $250,000 shekels, which he split with another suspect. The High Court has ruled that grocery stores will be allowed to remain open on Shabbat in Tel Aviv. Permits, which have been granted to 165 stores, which is 15% of all such establishments in the city, will be given to 9 districts based on the character of the district. The secular-leaning neighborhoods will be given more permits than the traditional neighborhoods. 3 years ago, the Tel Aviv municipality approved a bylaw which legalized the opening of these stores. This led to a long-standing dispute between the government and interior ministers. Since then, the issue has been fraught with contention in the political sphere, with politicians stalling on making definitive decisions so as not to upset the Haredi parties who oppose the ruling and secular Tel Aviv residents whose representatives first approved the bylaw. Health Minister Yaakov Litzman claimed the ruling was a, quote, gross legal interference in the values of religion and Jewish law, which leaves no choice but to advance a legal process to circumvent the High Court in order to prevent a continued erosion of Jewish tradition and religion in the state. MK Bezalel Smotrich also blasted the High Court, claiming that this ruling would cause mass Sabbath desecration and could lead to other cities following suit. On the contrary, the mayor of Tel Aviv, Ron Huldai, was pleased with the ruling, saying that the city of Tel Aviv was free and will remain free. Just days away from Holocaust Remembrance Day, and again the state comptroller has published a report blasting the needless bureaucracy and absence of a guiding hand needed to give aid to this aging population. More from IBA's Aryeh O'Sullivan.
Holocaust survivors are needy, and the government has allocated funding to help them. That's not the problem. It's the red tape and the lack of a guiding hand that confounds them. There are about 214,000 Holocaust survivors in the country. Many of them still live in poverty because of the inconceivable bureaucracy, patchwork legislation, and deficiencies in health services. The Holocaust Survivors' Rights Authority was to be the main body dealing with the survivors, but in reality, the funding has been divided up among a variety of government offices and agencies. No one is eager to give up on them, and the price is being paid by the survivors. The comptroller also said that the information on their rights is too complicated for them to reach, particularly for those who do not know Hebrew well or how to use the internet. They say that because of this, tens of millions of shekels don't reach the survivors. It also said that there was inadequate data on subsidized housing for survivors and that discounts for municipal rates were less for survivors than for the elderly. Some refuse to be frustrated and have the energy to get what's coming to them, but many have lost the will to fight. State Comptroller Joseph Shapira says that action is urgent because each month some 1,000 Holocaust survivors die. Aryeh O'Sullivan for IBA News.
On Sunday evening, Holocaust survivors will be giving testimonies in English at the Yom HaShoah Memorial Ceremony in Tel Aviv, taking place at the North Central Synagogue, located at 126 Ben Yehuda Street at 8 p.m. Marking the 74th anniversary of the start of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, members of Warsaw's Jewish community conducted a burial for Torah scrolls damaged during the Holocaust. Dozens of members of the country's Jewish community participated in the funeral yesterday, where officials buried some 300 fragments of Torah scrolls inside two enormous clay jars. It was the first time the ancient ritual was carried out in Warsaw at the city's Jewish cemetery. Poland's chief rabbi, Michael Shudryk, said the important ceremony shows that for Jews, the Torah scrolls are so important that when they are no longer usable, they are buried as if they are human beings. And here's a story that ended well. A yeshiva student declared missing since yesterday in the Nahal Og area, located in the Judean desert between Jerusalem and the northern Dead Sea, was found safe and sound this morning by police. The student, who was married just 9 months ago, was among a group of 5 yeshiva students who went hiking in the area yesterday. Towards late afternoon, suffering from dehydration, 4 members of the group alerted authorities and were rescued from the site. The 5th member of the group was declared missing. A search was launched, with police setting up a field commanding center to monitor the search with rescue units from Megillot, En Gedi, and Arad. In addition to police, the Army's K-9 unit, and dozens of volunteers scouring the area. The search continued throughout the night, ending this morning when a police patrol spotted the yeshiva student walking on a road near Nebi Musa. He told police officers that a helicopter flying overhead yesterday failed to see him, and he continued walking and later fell asleep on the roadside. In local money matters, shares were mixed on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, and the shekel was mixed in foreign currency trading. Here are the late afternoon numbers. And finally, since 1990, IBA English News has worked hard to bring you daily news from Israel in the English language. Unfortunately, the new broadcasting news company, which is set to begin operations in May, has no plans to continue the English news. If you do not wish to see English TV from Israel go off the air, please make your voice heard. Contact Tzachi Hanegbi, the Minister of Communications, at the email address on the screen below. The email is sar@moc.gov.il. Again, that's sar@moc.gov.il. And maybe we can all make a difference. Turning to the forecast, the IBA weather team says tonight will be clear, and tomorrow there will be continued clear skies with a significant rise in temperatures and a drop in humidity. Here's a look at the highs and lows for the next 24 hours at home and abroad. Thank you, Amir. That's all for this newscast. Join us again on Sunday, same time, same channel. Until then, I'm Yael Shir, wishing you a good evening and Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem.